Howdy y'all, it's Russell back with Gwinnett Lawns in beautiful. Oh, you cannot get a better sky than that. Look at that. Look how blue that is. Atlanta, Georgia. Today is Friday. It is April the 17th, 2026. And as you probably already know, I don't schedule mowing on Fridays. However, we have a mulch job to do. That's right. I don't do a lot of mulch, but this is for one of my customers. So yesterday afternoon, I trimmed the overgrown bushes and cleaned up as best I can around the beds where we're going to be putting that. And I hauled about 3 big garbage bags full of debris into the box truck back there. So we're going to be using the dump trailer, and I have not gotten mulch or anything put in here with these sides, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to dump this. I mean, this is like 7 feet high. I'm assuming they will. We're going to find out together. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick walk around. See these webs? The Giro spiders are coming. They're coming back already. Yeah, so I'm going to have to take this tarp off. Not off, but just take it and roll it back. I need my wheelbarrow. And the video today, we're going to be talking about workman's compensation. Look at all those Giro spiders. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Those are babies. Hate those things. Anyway, workman's compensation, because I've had some questions on some of the videos about helpers and stuff about workman's comp. Do you need it? What is it? Why would you want to have it? And stuff like that. So let me get some of the stuff I need out of the box truck, and we'll start the conversation. All right, so I got my debris I took out of there. I got the blower, got some rakes, couple shovels, my weed eater. I shouldn't really need anything other than the shovel, a rake, and the blower. Now this is the first time I've taken my tarp loose since I put it on there, because I found I could do everything I needed with debris by leaving it on there. But obviously, if they're going to be dumping material in here, this has to be gone. But that's what I did. And I have them all bungeed to this point here, so this is pretty tight. It shouldn't go anywhere. I guess we'll see. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the truck forward. I've got to close the box truck up and then check the air in the tires. And I'll need to bring my... I don't want to forget my wheelbarrow. We need that, but I've got to put this ramp down, and I'll show you how that works. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we're ready to head out. One thing that I did forget that I gladly remember was my little mulch rake. All right, so whether you have a landscape trailer, a dump trailer, I don't care what kind of trailer it is, please make sure that everything is secure, right? You need to have your chains crossed at least once. I see people that don't cross their chains, and you definitely need to do that. It's actually, I believe, a law in Georgia. I got my trailer breakaway here. Everything here is locked, so nobody can take anything. Everything's plugged in. I adjusted the air pressure in the tires, which they were only like half a pound low. Everything is secure. All the pins are secure. Okay. We are off. It is already getting hot, which I like. So I may have said this before, when I had the driveway extension done, I should have had it come all the way to the street. I did not plan this properly because with the box truck there, I have to come way out here, and I'm almost go up in my neighbor's yard there to make this turn. But I can do it. This is a long rig. So I'm going to go to Buck Jones, which is fortunately just right up the street. Luxury Landscape Supply is my favorite place, but that's a little ways. Oh, also make sure that if you're pulling a dump trailer, right, you should have a trailer brake controller. If you don't have one, depending on what kind of truck you have, you can have aftermarket ones that usually sit right here. So the gain, I usually keep it around 2 to 2.5 with the trailer empty. But just make sure that when you load your trailer up, that you turn it up a little bit. And all that does is apply the brakes properly to the back of the trailer. So, all right. Well, I guess we've got everything we need. So I'm gonna swing way out here. And then I gotta just lock it all the way. There we go. It barely makes it out of my driveway. And also, make sure to have tow haul mode on. If you got a Chevy or a Ford, should give you a little icon. Please don't tow a heavy trailer without using tow haul mode. If your transmission doesn't have that feature, then I would highly recommend that you upgrade your factory. Hopefully you have a factory transmission, auxiliary transmission cooler if you've got that package on the vehicle. Now this vehicle, it's a 2016 Silverado 2500 LTZ, and it has 26,142 miles. That's it. So this has the trailer brake controller, it's got the heavy duty towing package, and it's got 410 differentials, and it's also 4-wheel drive. So this is like the perfect setup. The only thing that would be a little bit different, which would make it the ultimate, is if it had the Duramax, but I much prefer the gas 6.0. This engine and transmission are exactly the same that's in my 2016 Isuzu NPR. So I'm going to put an auxiliary transmission cooler on here to replace the factory one. I'm going to put a Pacific PPE, Pacific Parts Engineering, I believe it's what it is, but it's like twice as thick and it's got tons more surface area than the factory cooler. This transmission doesn't have a thermostat in the line like the 1500s do, the half tons. The 3/4 and 1 ton Chevys of this vintage don't, which is good. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the transmission temperature. That's weird how it looks like it's blinking. It's not blinking. So my tarp is holding fine. It looks like it's not flying off. So that may be a good idea, just to roll it up and secure it like that. So I will be right back when I get to the mulch yard. All right, this is the yard part. The nursery part is way over there at Buck Jones. So I'll get loaded up and pay, and then we'll talk about workman's comp. All right, so I just paid and I'm off to the customers. So workman's comp, let's talk about that real quick because it's very important. So first of all, what is workman's comp? Workman's comp is insurance that almost all states require you to carry on your employees. Now, I have to preface this with a disclaimer that each state is going to have different rules. I only know the rules for Georgia. And Georgia says that you have to have workman's comp for 3 or more employees. So, do you carry workman's comp on yourself? No, you never carry it. Make sure that if you are going to carry workman's comp, you tell them to exclude the owner, that being you. You can exclude the owner, the operators of the company, the principals. You don't need workman's comp on yourself, but you do need it on your employees. So if I had, since I'm in Georgia, if I had it for 1, 2, 3 employees, the state doesn't require me to carry it. Okay, I'm not breaking the law if I don't carry it. If I have more than 3 employees, or I think it's 3 or more, then you do have to carry it by law. What happens if you don't carry workman's comp? Well, if your employee gets hurt, he's using the weed eater, the string trimmer, and he cuts his finger off or whatever. You know who's going to pay for that bill? You. Right? You do not want that financial burden on your business, because medical bills can be out of sight expensive. Workman's comp is just an insurance policy. Okay, it's written, or you purchase it through independent insurance agents. You'll have to call an agent. I had used Biltmore Insurance Agency in Loganville, Georgia. I called them up, say, hey, do you do workman's comp for companies? And they're like, yes, we do. So there are companies, giant companies that you've never heard of that do workman's comp, and a lot of them will only work through independent agents. So you'll just have to Google it and call around. But it is very important to have, and it's just an insurance policy. And the way that it works is you tell them what your expected annual salary. So let's say January 1st, you wanted to get workman's comp policy on your employees. You would fill out the application. You would, of course, give them all the information about your business. They want to know what is the dollar value and amount of the salary that you expect for all your employees. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, that's what it's based off of. It's based off a percentage of what you pay your employees. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm just going to go low. Nope. So here's what happens. It's in ranges. Like, I think the lowest you can get a workman's compensation policy for is like between $5,000 to $7,000. So let's say you have a part-timer and you're like, hey, I'm only going to end up paying them $4,000 a year. Well, you'll have to get the minimum policy. Depending on the company, it may be a $7,000 policy. That just means that you expect that you will pay your employees $7,000 or less. And what I know what some of you are thinking, because I was thinking it myself. I'm just going to go low. Well, first of all, if you have 10 employees, they're going to go by industry averages and say, you should have a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, whatever it is, right? You just can't say, oh, I'm only going to pay them $7,000. They're not. Look, insurance companies aren't stupid. So let's say that you do only have one employee and he's really part-time, just like what I had, and I went with the cheapest policy. And I asked the agent, I said, well, what if I end up paying them more, or I hire 2 more people or 1 more person and my total salary base goes up for all my employees? She said, well, you can either call and we'll readjust the premium, because it's based, the premium, how much you pay is based on what you say you're going to pay your employees. And I said, okay. I said, what if I don't call? She said, well, at the end of the year, when the contract is up for that time period, it's usually 12 months, you will have to do an audit. It's called a insurance audit. And what you're going to do is you're going to get your accountant, or if you use QuickBooks, you can do it yourself. You are going to give them a reported statement of the salary that you paid all of your employees. Now you see where I'm going with this? So, in every instance, I overshot the mark, meaning that I ended up paying my employees more than I said I was going to. It was a guess. I mean, I don't know. They're part-time, stuff happens, but it's okay, right? This is not just the honor system. Oh no. So what's going to happen is you're going to say, let's say I got the $7,000 policy and I ended up paying my workers $12,000 total. That could have been a mix of 1 employee, 2 employees, 10 employees. It doesn't matter. They want to know the total amount, and the form that they want you to have at the ready will show the breakdown of the salary or the money paid to each employee, and then the total, including your salary. Now, remember I told you don't have to have workman's comp? Well, you don't have to have it on yourself, but when you go to fill out the form the very first time, make sure, this is so important because I did this, but the insurance company conveniently overlooked it. I filled the form out correctly. It was explained to me correctly. I wanted to be exempt, and they forgot to check the box on my policy. I didn't catch it. My agent didn't catch it. And I ended up having to go through 3 months worth of, shall we say, very vigorous email discussions with them, letting them know that I indeed wanted to be exempt, or I would have had to pay workman's comp on me as well. So fortunately, the forms showed correctly that I was to be exempt. The boxes were checked. There was actually a separate form that I exempted myself and had to sign it, and it was such a hassle. But the entire thing had to go back to underwriting, and it took months, and I mean months, to get it fixed because they wanted the additional money for the premium. But it worked out because the form was done correctly, and I don't know who that is. So that fine, it was worked out, and then they fixed it going forward. Just make sure that you're exempt on that. So if you do overshoot the mark on your audit, you ended up paying more than your policy that you paid for, then what they do is they readjust it. So you would just owe the additional premium for the additional money that you paid. It's not a big deal unless you're not expecting it, okay? But just keep in mind that you will not be able to just fudge and put the minimum. You can do the minimum, but they're not gonna, if you've got several full-time employees, they know, okay? They're not gonna let you say you're only gonna pay them $7,000. But you don't wanna do that because you'll just owe more money at the end of the term. So they're gonna get the money regardless from the audit. But it's very important. If you don't take anything away from this, take away the fact that you need to make sure that you're exempt, and you need to check the laws in your state to see if and when you are required to carry workman's comp. So what happens if you decide, well, legally I don't have to carry workman's comp, so I'm not going to do it, and something happens? We're going to talk about that in a minute. All right, so I'm up here at the job. I'm getting ready to show you what we're going to do, what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to put it on a time lapse. And thank goodness it's in the shade right now. This was all full sun yesterday. Okay, so what happens if you legally don't have to carry workman's comp? Let's say you have one part-time guy, and your state is like Georgia. Let's say you're in Georgia, and you don't have to have workman's comp, and your employee gets hurt. You are on the hook for it. You. Or your business. So that includes a one-time day laborer. He works for you for 5 minutes and gets hurt. You are going to be financially responsible for that. Period. I'm saying this to make the point that workman's comp insurance, if you know that you're going to have an employee here and there, it's worth carrying. It is an additional expense on the business, but it's better than You know, I don't know how much. Let's say somebody just has to get 5-6 stitches in their hands. You know, you could pay more to have that done than you would have had to pay for the entire policy. So depending on how you do your payroll, I use, you know, there's ADP and different payroll companies like that. A lot of the payroll companies work in partnership with workman's compensation companies, and they will do it kind of on an ongoing basis. So it's a percentage of what you pay your employees, taken out each, like every week or every 2 weeks. And that way you'll still have to do an audit at the end, but you're not gonna owe anything because they're doing it as you go. I would much prefer that way because then it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry, because the audit can be, it's not hard to do. You just fill out a couple forms and give them your stuff. But if you're doing it through your payroll company that you're working with, hopefully you're working with a payroll company because they take care of all the taxes and all that for you if you have it set up right. But it just makes a lot more sense because you'll do it as a percentage going forward each week or every 2 weeks. So that would be my advice. If you're going to do that, check with your payroll company. But if not, if you want to do it the way I did it before, just Google workman's compensation for whatever state you're in, and you'll find a bunch of agents. Don't try to look for the companies themselves. Look for the independent agents and just call them and say, hey, I want to find out, you know, I've got 2 employees, I've got 1 employee, I've got 2 part-time and 1 full-time, whatever it is. And they will work with you to find a company that you can have your workman's comp done. So that is my advice to you. It's very important to carry workman's comp. I'm just going to say that. Just like it's very important to carry general liability insurance for your business. You know what? If you want a way to go out of business really fast, and or to lose a lot of assets that you've worked for, skip having your general liability insurance. That's a whole nother video, and I can tell you some stories that will curdle your stomach. And it's just too bad. But you know, insurance, you have to have car insurance, you have to have different insurances, but you don't have to have general liability insurance. But boy, should you. You should not be doing this business without it. So I hope that was enlightening. I do get quite a few questions on workman's comp. So if you don't understand or you have some weird stuff, maybe put that down in the comments. If you do have workman's comp on your employees, I would love to understand and find out how much you pay for it per year or per employee. Do you have a story where you didn't have workman's comp and you had to pay out of pocket? Everybody likes those stories because we can learn from that, hopefully. So I'm going to get over here and start this mulch job. I'm going to start in the front because it's shady, and I'll show you everything, and I'm just going to run it on a time lapse. All right, so we're going to be mulching that. You would not believe how overgrown these bushes were. And this. And then this right here. So, you know what I'm thinking? I'm gonna turn around so that the end of the trailer is right here, so I won't have to go as far. Should have done that before. That'll save me some steps. Let me redeploy this rig. All right, so let's look at the result. Nice and fresh. Got to make sure to do the details behind all the cracks and crevices. Starting to get a little hot, but boy, this breeze is nice. It feels like the ocean. Get all that down there. Whew. All right, now I gotta go get some fuel for the truck. Yeah, gotta get some fuel footage. I gotta get some food. Haven't eaten lunch yet, and it is 1:16. So this took about 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, almost 3 hours to put that out. So worked out good. All right, I will talk to you guys on the next one.